We are pleased to welcome Ira Robbins, President and Chief Executive Officer, Valley National Bank. Good to see you, Ira.
Good to see you, Steve. Thank you for having me.
I've been honored for the last few years to do some leadership and communication coaching at the bank. I've gotten to know it well. But when I met you, you were not the President and CEO.
No.
You've been there how long?
22 years this July. I started as a management trainee, got a job out of a newspaper to work for Valley.
Describe the job of President and CEO at this bank. And the footprint of the bank is?
So we have branches in New Jersey, New York, Florida, and now recently in the state of Alabama. New Jersey is our home, though. That's where the bank started in 1927, so the bank's been around for about 91 years. I think the role of CEO, president, is more just of a leader. From a directional perspective, how do you set the tone within the organization, set the strategy within the organization? You know, for my prior 21 years within the organization, it's really been pulling up my sleeves.
Operations.
And attempting to really...
Finance.
Exactly.
So is it a big... I'm curious, you know, as a student of leadership, I'm always curious about how people make the adjustment. You're dealing with finance, you're dealing with operations, like in the weeds, and then you have to step back and be a big picture leader?
It's a big change, for me at least. You know, I've always been, as you said, in the ground, in the focus, as much as I could be to make sure that what we were looking at made some financial sense as to the path we were going down. Now it's more taking that, having a step back, and hopefully having people come up with those ideas on their own, but once again, attempting to provide that financial acumen to make sure there's a path that makes sense for us.
Our State of Affairs focuses on public policy. I saw you with Jim Cramer, our good friend over at CNBC, and he was pressing you on a whole range of tax-related questions. A, the federal tax laws led by President Trump impact not just on the banking industry, but on consumers overall. Different in New Jersey than in Florida and Texas. Go ahead.
Absolutely. You know, you look at the state of New Jersey. So we've grown about 800,000 actual employees in the last 3 to 4 years. State of Florida, 4 million people have moved to the state of Florida. I think when New Jersey looks at its economics, it needs to make sure we just don't look from an isolated view, but we need to really, from a macro perspective, understand what are the other opportunities from a consumer perspective as well as a business perspective. Why does a consumer want to live in New Jersey versus the state of Florida? Why does a business want to set up shop in the state of New Jersey? Not only set up shop, but stay in the state of New Jersey.
Okay, so lay that out for a little bit. Just on the business end, what are you looking for?
Taxes. You have a 5.5% tax rate versus a 9-10% tax rate in the state of New Jersey.
Corporate tax.
Corporate tax rate. From an individual perspective, 0% income state tax rate in the state of Florida versus potentially 10% in the state of New Jersey. New Jersey is a wonderful state. And there's many, many wonderful attributes associated with it. Being so close to New York City, the culture, the quality of employees that we have here are second to none. That said, when you're looking at it from a business perspective, it definitely comes down to the bottom line. And if you're not going to be able to generate enough net income for yourself, for your shareholders, you have to make a decision as to what state makes the most sense. And when economic policy gets decided in the state of New Jersey, it can't be just an isolated view. We have to make sure we look at it across all different spectrums.
Ira, what do you think most consumers, I mean, you've said in some of the conversations we've had offline that it's regulation, a challenge, but the bigger one is technology. What do you mean by that?
It's such an opportunity for banks today. And I think, you know, when you traditionally look at a bank, banks are very straightforward. We take in deposits and make loans. But it's how we do that today that's really changing, and that provides the opportunity to really differentiate ourselves as a bank, whether it be Valley National Bank or any other organization today. And I think that also attracts talent today when you can come into an organization and say, I have the ability to mold something, to create something that's a little bit different as to how we connect with our customers. That unique user experience is what everyone's trying to really gravitate towards. How do you develop that? How do you target a specific customer segment and say, I'm going to deliver the very traditional product in a different manner that's unique to that customer, but at an expense that's very, very manufacturing.
But you also have to have the technology that people want to make things faster, but keep the personal touch. Very difficult.
So it is, but it isn't. I think if you look at it from a long-term perspective, take AI as to how you go about banking. So I have a customer call me and say, you know, I have a delinquent on my residential mortgage. So you can either have an individual answer the phone, or you can have artificial intelligence that sits there and picks up the phone and says, I know that this is Ira Robbins based on the phone number. I know that Ira Robbins was delinquent. Ira Robbins has never been delinquent before. Why don't I just go ahead and waive that charge for him? Where compared to, it's Ira Robbins calling, I've been to Lincoln for the last 12 times, maybe that individual needs a little bit more counseling, right? So you can direct from an expense perspective a customized approach that I believe is unique to that individual customer, and that's where every bank needs to be, and not just bank, but I think from a customer perspective, everyone wants that unique touch and feel that connects with him or her.
I would go back, because in the Kramer interview on CNBC, you did talk about Trump a little bit.
Yeah.
Listen, we're doing this program in mid-April. We don't know what tweets coming out. We don't know what trade policy is going on. But I don't want to get into the complexities of a trade war potentially with China. The level of volatility, let's say, or unpredictability in Washington, the White House, to what degree does it impact the banking industry, if at all?
So look, we've been in a very benign economy, and the markets have been very low volatility in them, as you earlier described. You know, having a little bit of volatility is not bad. I think people have become very complacent.
Respectfully, Ira, for people with pensions that are waiting to retire, that ain't great.
I think from a risk perspective, understanding that
risk.
Look, risk is basically whether I'm risk averse as to what type of exposure I want to take within the market versus what my comfort level is. If you see a market that linear looks like this for a long period of time, someone necessarily isn't that attuned as to what their real risk profile is. Having a little bit of volatility every now and then eliminates some of that commonplace that people have begun to feel, and I think that's a good
Complacency? I remember when President Trump took office, it's going up and up. I'm thinking, hey, listen, those are my retirement funds. That's great. It's great. But there's a downside.
Yeah, it doesn't always go that way, right? And I think when you're looking at your investment profile, if your expectation is it's always going to go this way, you're going to have an allocation that maybe isn't the most appropriate for you today. So having a little bump here and there is part of the economy, is part of the economic cycle. We need that.
Real quick, branding question before we get back to regulation, before I let you go. As we speak, there's a discussion going on about tweaking, if you will, of the name of Valley, because your Chiron says Valley National Bank.
Yeah, you know, and I think how does that resonate to a specific customer? I think when we look at Valley National Bank, there's a current customer that we serve today, and maybe there's a target customer that looks a little bit different. And the millennials make up a much larger component of the workforce today than ever. We need to be able to target them. Does Valley National Bank resonate with that target segment today? Like it does with our current customer segment. And I think as we look to brand the bank as we move forward, we need to make sure we are resonating with both target segments, and then we have a product set and experience that resonates with both target segments as well.
So there might be a tweak in the name.
I believe so.
Okay, final question before you let you go. Banking industry over the next, I'm not going to say 3 to 5 years, the next couple of years, what do you predict in terms of interest rates?
Yeah, it's a good question. My own individual opinion, not the bank's opinion, would be that we're not going that high on the long end. I would say there's concerns that I have with regard to the global economy, with regard to where as an organization, where as an economy we're going to go. I would say the 10-year, in my opinion, doesn't get much over 3%.
That's it?
That's it. My own individual opinion. I think, you know, from a bank's perspective, risk management, we talked about volatility before, it's our responsibility, and it should be everyone's responsibility to make sure that we've set up a balance sheet that lets interest rates go to 5% and let interest rates go down to 2%, just like somebody should do with their own individual investments.
Ira Robbins is President and Chief Executive Officer of, as we speak, Valley National Bank. Pay attention to the potential name change over time. Thank you, Ira.
Thanks, Steve. I really
Good to see
appreciate
you,
it. Thank you so much.
This is State of Affairs. We're at NJTV Studios in Newark, and we will be right back.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by the law firm of Gibbons, P.C., New Jersey Resources, Summit Medical Group, the New Jersey Education Association, Georgian Court University, New Jersey Council of County Colleges, and by the Fidelco Group.